All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you to one of Jewish Outreach's greatest leaders here with us from Olami. Those of you that are not familiar, Olami is this massive foundation of organizations that provide much needed funding to hundreds of Jewish outreach organizations on campus and young professionals worldwide. You're going to be able to tell from her accent that she originates from Australia, but she's been all over. She's been to Israel. She ran huge, tremendous programming in New York for young professionals with Sold and I believe Meor. You'll tell us more about that. And now she recently got married. She's living in LA. And to have her give a class for us is a very, very big deal, especially on this topic, which I'm sure is going to be really, really awesome. So maybe towards the end of the class, there will be time for any questions if anybody has any. And without further ado, thank you so much, Jackie Glaser, for being with us tonight. And take it away.
Thank you. How long do I have?
As long as you want. We figured an hour, but whatever you
Yeah,
want.
about an hour. Okay, great. So I like to finish before so then we can schmooze and talk. And also, like, I don't know, I don't like talking out into the abyss. And like, if you have a question or a comment, please feel free to just chat it in or unmute and speak. Like, I welcome that. I think it adds to the session and the discussion because then I tailor it also to what you want to know, right? It's not just like me just talking at you. I'd rather have a conversation. So okay, so with that, I'm not gonna. As long as you're okay, Rabbi. I'm not going to talk about myself and my job and everything. I think I should just launch um, into the topic because it's such an interesting topic, which was how to break through and not break down. Right when we're confronted with a challenge or a test. So so when a group of 5 Jewish women were eating lunch in a busy cafe. And nervously, their waiter approaches and says, "Is anything okay?" Right? Meaning, expectations can be the difference between a breakthrough and a breakdown. Yeah. When I expect everything to go a certain way and then it doesn't go that way, so then I have to deal with all those feelings of discomfort and the challenge and my dissatisfaction because I expected things to go a certain way. So when we're talking about the difference between a breakthrough and a breakdown, we have to look at our expectations as a first stop, right? And right now, we're all sitting in a place where we did not expect to be doing what we're doing right now. I did not expect to be sitting here in Los Angeles for Passover. I have a flight booked tomorrow to Philadelphia that I just canceled. And, we were meant to go and be guests somewhere rather than actually do our own Passover. So like, depending on how you respond and react to life, one of my favorite, when I was working as a psychologist, one of my favorite topics to discuss was the idea that wherever your expectations are, and then there is the reality, the difference is your level of suffering, right? So if my expectations are here and the reality is here, this difference literally will be the level that I'll suffer if I want reality to be forced into my type of expectations. So when we're talking about a breakthrough and not a breakdown, rather than talk about how I expect things to go, Rav Noach Weinberg, who was the head of Aish Torah in Israel, he's not alive anymore, he should have an aliyah. He said, expect the good in general. Just don't expect the details to go the way you want. So I love that reframe, that rather than expect things to go a specific way that we think it should go, which is not possible because we just don't have the whole picture, right? You guys are at the end of a series of learning here, so you really know, you've had a lot of these kind of ideas, I'm sure, over the weeks and over your learning, that we don't have the whole picture, right? We don't have at any given moment, we only have one specific, very narrow view or focus of what's going on. So expectations and reality, the difference is our level of suffering. Rav Noach Weinberg says, rather than have focus on the details of the expectations of how things should go, in general, just expect that it will be good. And I think that change in our expectation, rather than expect it to go the way we want, to expecting the good, but we just don't know how it's going to come about, I think is a much healthier perspective and attitude. And what that really means is to zoom out, to zoom out from your life rather than focusing on the day-to-day details, and that in any given moment, I feel that this is the end of the story. Like in any given moment, something happens and we react as if this is just terrible, rather than zoom out and realize perspective is that I'm in the middle of a story. Yeah. One of my favorite quotes is, everything is okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. Right. So that's really more the Purim story, which we're coming out of into Passover right now, which is that whenever, if you look at the Purim story in Megillas Esther, every single thing looked terrible for the Jews, and then it ended up flipping on its head at the end when it ended up being good for the Jews, right? But in the middle of the story, it looked disastrous. And in the end, all the details ended up being a mechanism to turn over the whole fate. But when we're in the middle of a story, we have no idea. So right now we are in the middle of a story that looks kind of disastrous. Corona is spreading everywhere. We keep getting doom and gloom through the media. Expect the worst. Expect the worst, by the way, it's the opposite recommendation, right? Expect the worst, which is the feeling we get when we read the news. And that it's only going to escalate. It's only going to get bad. But really, we're in the middle of a story. And I'm like so curious to see how the story unfolds, because we have no idea. We have no idea what's about to happen. And if you look back on your life, you'll see that you had lots of expectations that didn't work out. And that in the end, actually, certain things turned out actually to be quite better off for you, rather than what you thought should have happened. You know, people who lost jobs and ended up in better places, but when they lost the job, it felt terrible, but then things opened up. So in any given moment, expect the good and zoom out and realize that you're in the middle of a story. It feels very, very different when you look at things that way, and you can get through any challenge in a much healthier sense. So, another thing that I think helps, particularly in the time that we're in now with Corona, is that people really focus on what they've lost. I've lost my plans. I've lost my job, or I've lost whatever job I was doing day to day, at least for a while. I'm losing money. I'm losing, God forbid, my health if I'm feeling not well. Like, there's a lot to focus on with loss, and it's valid. It's real. However, we learn from ethics of our fathers, who is a wealthy person, someone who feels wealthy and rich, is someone who is happy and focuses on what they have, right? Now, it doesn't mean that we don't acknowledge that we're losing certain things, but if you just focus on the loss, it just is overwhelming. It's overwhelming, and it defines your whole reality. So in order to even just create a balance, I have to focus on what I have. Like, I'm sitting here completely overwhelmed. I've never made Passover. I just got married. I've got 2 stepkids. Like, I could be just completely overwhelmed. I lost this amazing experience I thought I was going to have. I could be feeling upset, but really when I stop and go, oh my gosh, thank God I'm healthy. I could be, God forbid, in a hospital. I could be on a respirator. Like, to just focus on, if you just think about that for 2 seconds, all of a sudden I feel like it's okay. I'm happy. Like, I'm grateful because I'm not in hospital. I could easily have spent hospital, God forbid, Passover in hospital, right? And a lot of people are. And it's worse because you can't have family visit you. So like, you're alone. You're really alone. So I'm grateful that I'm not alone, right? I'm great. So just putting things in perspective that way, zooming out, seeing perspective, somehow this is going to be good. We're going to get through this. It's going to develop a part of ourselves, and focusing on what we have, someone who is happy with their lot. Yeah, with their lot in life, someone who's happy with what they do have and accepting what is, really is a key to breaking through and not breaking down. I hope is this making sense?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. I like a bit of feedback sometimes. I'm like most people turn their video off. I don't know if that's the norm.
I warned them. I told them not happening.
What's not happening?
No, I told them no turning the videos off.
Okay. Well, Eleni, Ashley, Sharon, and Scott, I'd love
We're
to
working on it in the back end.
I would love to see your smiling faces. Anyway, everyone else is like, okay. Okay, is this making sense? I've got you guys on gallery view, so I can actually see all your smiling faces. Awesome. Yay, thanks, Cara. Love a bit of feedback.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Danielle. Yeah. We have a brave soul coming out from the mute. Yes.
So I was thinking, like, I know you're saying we should focus on the good rather than the bad, but sometimes, like, focusing on the danger isn't necessarily focusing on the bad. And we're focusing on, like, the bad news now because we're trying to warn people so that it doesn't get worse. So I don't know, like, is there a place to focus on that?
Yes, so focusing on reality is important. This is what you're saying to me hits me as in like we're focusing on reality. Reality is this is the situation and this is what we need to do to protect ourselves. That's fine. That's great. It's all the media hysteria. Like they keep predicting how bad it's going to be and how bad it's going to be. And then it ends up being like actually not that bad. Like New York just dropped in new cases yesterday. But like that wasn't predicted like a few days ago. It was like doom and gloom. It's because it creates fear, and fear buys the news. So it's being able to discern the difference between that kind of fear and focusing on the negative versus like what's the reality and what do I have to do to be safe. So it's not about being in la la land like Pollyanna syndrome. Everything's great. Right? Baruch Hashem. I call it the Baruch Hashem syndrome. Right? I don't know if you've heard that. Whatever. When everyone's like, "Oh, my house is on fire. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem." Like you don't have to be this pretend right thing. Like I can't stand that because it's not how it's meant to be. You're meant to be totally focused on the reality and then still look for the good and balance good. What people tend to do is they forget any good and they focus in on the fear. Our fear makes us feel as if we just have to focus on the negative to keep safe. It's like a survival mechanism. So one of my favorite definitions of fear is false expectations appearing real. Right? False expectations appearing real. So I have a false expectation like we're all going to die, and then it appears as if it's real, and then the fear just runs away with me. It's very hard to like pull back and focus in on reality, but that's the nature of fear. Thanks, Jason, for coming out of the darkness. Hi. Okay. So one of the other things that's really important is acceptance of what is. Acceptance of what is happening, which is part of the connecting to reality. Right? I have expectations of how I think things should go. They don't go the way I want to go. So then my only option really is to either resist reality, which is when I suffer, or accept reality that right now it is what it is. It's one of my favorite lines, right? It is what it is. Right now, I'm in quarantine. It is what it is. I can either make the best of it or I can keep resisting and complaining and being negative, right? I get a choice in how I respond to that. So it is what it is. Acceptance of reality is really the key to breaking through and not breaking down. Yeah, acceptance, just accepting. Doesn't mean it's not hard. It doesn't mean it's not going to bring its own challenges. It doesn't mean you have to love every element of it, but just saying, okay, this is how it is. And this goes with all of life, by the way. It is what it is, right? That my life is given to me for a certain reason. There's something in it for me, that the fact that my life is like this. It's a very unusual situation that we're all in the same situation at the same time, because everyone usually has different unique tests and challenges according to their specific situation. The fact that we're all facing a similar kind of challenge at the once is so unusual. And ironically, you feel a connection because of it, right? But it is what it is, acceptance of life and acceptance of, am I allowed to say the G word, God? We talk about God openly here. The idea of the fact that there's a higher power and there's a plan, and that, acceptance of God's will, of this higher power's will, that there's a higher, bigger purpose. And I don't know the whole situation, so I can accept what's going on because I know it's part of a bigger plan, is a very, very important quality in being able to get through any challenge, right? Get through any challenge. And it's interesting because—
I have a question on that.
Yes, Hillary.
Okay, so I hear the sort of mandate or call to accept, and then also in there is this invocation of, okay, if God's will's at work, how much are we supposed to be seeking explanation versus just mere acceptance, whether it's a theological explanation or a scientific explanation? Like, how sort of agentic should we be in trying to understand what's happening versus just accepting what's happening?
So I got asked this question, this excellent question, and I'm going to add to the question, and then I'm going to answer it with what I got answered when I asked these questions. One was that not only that, but if everything's in God's hands, so to speak, like fate, why do I have to do anything? Why can't I just sit back and just—
You can totally imagine it making us all passive.
Correct. Exactly. Why shouldn't I just be passive? It's God's going to do what he wants anyway. He's running the show. I don't really know what's going on. So like, why should I look for understanding and explanation? And why should I even really do anything? Because God, right? You hear the question? It's a really good question. So I asked my rabbi in Israel at the time, this Rabbi Lawrence Kellerman, and he said, he took very seriously. And he said, you should do as much effort and look into it with as much understanding as any good atheist would. Right, meaning God wants us to be completely active and completely co-creating with God, right? So what does that mean? We put in maximum effort, as if any good atheist would if they didn't believe in God. Like what is considered the normal effort for anything, like getting a job or understanding something, and the outcome is up to God. We don't know, we can't control the outcome. So that's where we as Jews can go, oh, now I let go and I surrender and I accept, because I can't control this and I'm not in charge of the outcome. We are for sure not in charge of Corona. We are for sure not in charge of quarantine. We're for sure not in charge. All we can do is just do our effort, our Shtadlut, it's called, which is effort, which is wash my hands, social distance, quarantine, listen to the rules, right? And then there's a whole lot of spiritual Hishtadlut, effort. I don't know if you've gone into that, Rabbi, over the week, but essentially spiritual work to do, which is really what I believe why one of the spiritual reasons, like we always put on spiritual lenses. When anything happens in a challenge in life, we put on a spiritual lens. We do the physical stuff that's needed, like we're doing with the doctors and everything, but there's always a spiritual reason why we're in a situation. And there's always, we might not know always the reason, but we definitely have hints to what we're meant to work on. And one of the things that is very, very interesting here is that the word for isolation in Hebrew is baded, right? Which is the word for isolation is baded. It's the same exact word as hisbodedut, which is meditation. So it's so ironic that we're in isolation, which means we have to be alone, and yet we're meant to do something maybe deeper, which is meditation, go internal. You can't go outside, go inside. I'm going to strip away all the externals so that our internal world is more in focus, right? And it's really unbelievable, because on some level, all the physical external world has fallen away and fallen apart and is breaking down. And the world that's intact, the world that's stayed intact completely, is the spiritual world. It's unbelievable. When you look at the hints God is giving us of like just the reality, the physical external world is not there. None of the distractions, none of the entertainment, nothing. It's all no school, no work. I mean, it's unbelievable. You could never have imagined in a million years we'd be in this situation, right? And yet the internal world is completely intact. We can learn Torah, we can pray, we can deepen ourselves, we can do inner work, we can meditate, we can do personal growth, we can read, we can do all sorts of things we never have time for, right? Internally, if we want to make the most of it. We always have free choice. You could also just binge on Netflix day in, day out as well. I'm sure people are doing that very successfully. Okay, so if we look at every single challenge, I want to talk about challenges, right? So the goal of life, you know, little light topic. The goal of life is to develop our potential, right? Develop our potential, maximize and actualize our potential this lifetime. Every single one of us has a unique purpose in life. Every single person that's connected to your personalities, your talents, your skill sets, you know, to who you are, your set of circumstances, your opportunities. It's connected. You didn't ask for any of those. You didn't control any of those. You entered into this world in a set of coordinates that is you. Yes? No, we didn't choose it. I mean, as in we didn't choose any of those things. It's out of our control. And we're here to actualize our potential. So God creates opportunities for us to do that. The Torah compares us to olives, interestingly. Does anyone know how olive oil is made? Beautiful, pure olive oil is made.
Crushed.
Yeah, it's crushed. Yeah, the olives are crushed in order to extract this beautiful olive oil. So you think, well, what's that got to do with us? So sometimes in life that we're pushed into a certain corner and we're in a certain position and we are squeezed in that position and we don't want to be, and we would never wish it on anyone, and we wish it would stop. But we are squeezed in a certain way, in a certain position. And through being squeezed in that position at that time in our life, we are forced to dig deep inside of ourselves and extract this beautiful potential that we never would have found, and we would never have gone there had we not been squeezed and pressed and crushed in that specific way at that time. And usually you're only pressed to the degree that you can handle, so that you can be forced inside to grab and to find this inner strength. Yeah, this inner strength, this inner potential in some way. And really, I feel that that's what's going on now to some degree, that we're being forced to go inside in some way, right? So the word in Hebrew for test, when you're in a spiritual test, is nisayon. The word nisayon, I'm sorry, please excuse me if you know this, because I don't know what people know here or not. You obviously have all different backgrounds as well. Nisayon comes from the root nes. Nes means in Hebrew what? So nes? Melissa, I was reading, I could see you knew that. What is it?
Miracle.
Miracle, yes, miracle. And thank you, Rachel. And Nes also means something else. Does anyone know the other meaning for Nes? Nes means miracle and one other word.
Banner.
Who said that?
Banner.
Rabbi, I know you know the answers to this. Now
Well,
you got them off the hook. You're so sweet. That means he's fully in the class. I love
I feel
that.
for them. I
That
don't want
means like
anybody to
he's,
feel awkward.
yeah, he's, no, I don't feel. I like them to squirm. I do it on purpose.
Let them
Anyway,
squirm.
because then you know why? Because that discomfort forces them to go inside and find an answer. It's interesting. Anyway, same idea. It's exactly the same idea we're talking about. So nes means flag or banner, right? It's a flag or banner. So how is that connected? We know in Hebrew, when the Hebrew word is the same and there's two different meanings, they're deeply connected. So it means that when you go through a test in your own life, some spiritual challenge or test, it's a miracle that you get through it, right? Often it's a real miracle that you really pulled through. And then what we see is that when people pull through it, they become a flag or banner to the rest of the world in how to get through that challenge, right? So you see this all the time where like, for God forbid, like a family has a child with cancer, leukemia or something. And then later on when they get through the ordeal, they start a foundation to help other parents go through that same ordeal, and they act as a huge resource for those other families, right? You'll see many foundations, many places that help other people started because those people went through that same challenge themselves. They become a flag or banner, and irrelevant to whether they lost the child or the child's lived, or right, they just know the system, they know how it works, they know what helps, what doesn't help. They become a huge resource. So you see that this idea of whatever challenge you go through, you can end up being an enormous help to the rest of the world in that very thing. So I think that that's important because it gives perspective to every single challenge we have, even though in the moment it doesn't feel good and you wish it would stop. So the purpose of any test, any challenge, is to make us greater. It's to make us more humble, more refined, more grateful, more sensitive, and more godlike, right? More elevated, more refined. So the $1 million question is, how do we know that we're in a spiritual test or a challenge for us? Because everyone's challenged by different things. So if you know that you're in a test, you have much more likelihood of passing that test, right? If you know okay, I'm going to be tested. So you kind of psych up for it, and you kind of you're stronger because you know you're in a test, and you know that the fact that you are being tested. So you're in an opportunity now to choose between two things, and you want to choose the right thing. What's the indicator you're in a spiritual test for you in your life, or a challenge, spiritual challenge, that you're being tested to potentially build yourself into a greater place? I'm going to let them squirm, Rabbi.
I'm going to let them squirm too.
How do you know? How do you know you're in a spiritual challenge? Because this is the $1 million question. If you know this, then you'll have a much more likelihood of passing.
I think we have Miss Convisar, second grade.
I'm a teacher, so this is my school account, but my first name's Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
Could it be like kind of just a level of discomfort or like an uneasiness that kind of makes you go outside of your normal thought process or routine, maybe?
Yes, so I like the word discomfort, and I like uneasy. There's a specific type of discomfort and a specific type of uneasy. Like I can feel discomfort because I don't know whether I should choose between Chunky Monkey or Ben & Jerry's like chocolate chip. I can feel like I'm torn, right? But it's not that kind of uneasy. But so what type of uneasy or discomfort is it? I would say even stronger, conflict.
Do you mind if I add? Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to say, to me, a sense of spiritual discomfort or spiritual challenge or test arises when there's a certain level of ambiguity where no matter where you look to find the answer, no like Google search or no novel, no like concrete information will be able to give you that answer. It's something that you have to search within yourself, or maybe through experiences or through other people, but not necessarily something that you would be able to just find an immediate answer to, like, is the sky or blue? Yes or no? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes, because you're circling around the answer, and you haven't just fallen in yet, but you're like so close. Because what you're describing is the description of it. Should I take you out of your misery? Just as in the answer, the idea is that you're in moral conflict. So that the spiritual thing you're talking about of like, it's not clear, is a certain moral conflict, a moral tension. We often do have the answers in the sense that we have a Torah, which is like a map. It's like a moral compass, right? And we often have a Rav or Rebbitzin or mentor, especially if you're in these kind of programs, that you can ask as feedback for your specific situation, how to apply Torah into your situation with changes for each person often, right? So, but you're right, it's not something you can Google, as easily, right? That's what you were saying, that it's moral conflict. So when part of me really wants to do this, and another part of me is like, I'm not sure you should do that. I really don't think that's the right thing. And then you get torn back and forth between these two different voices in your head, right? Where you feel like you're in a moral conflict. There's usually a moral challenge. That is the key, that you are in a test, and everyone's range of moral conflict changes. Do you know this? That every single person's range of moral tension is different to each other. So what puts me into moral conflict is not necessarily what would put you into moral conflict, and not necessarily what would put Jason into moral conflict, right? Meaning it's a certain set of scenarios and triggers and life circumstances that, because of who you are, where you've come from, and your upbringing and your personality and your talents and skills and what you know and what you don't know, it puts you into certain moral conflict. We call it a Bechira range, the range of your Bechira, your free will range. That there's a certain range where I get into tension, a moral conflict, and that's the point where I can flex and access my free will muscle to make a conscious choice, even though I have two different parts of me pulling me in two different directions. And when I override and make that conscious choice to do what I think is the right thing, that's the only moment that I'm actually building myself beyond what I was, right? When I flex and access my free will muscle, meaning I have two parts of me already. If it was super clear and super easy, I wouldn't be accessing my free will muscle, because I would just do what feels obviously the right thing to do. But it's only when I have the conflict and I kind of know what I think is the right thing, but part of me really wants to do something else because it feels much better, right? Then that's when I access my free will, is when I'm really building and defining and taking myself to the next level. Jason, yeah.
How does that work for somebody who, say, grows up in an environment in which they're exposed to morals, right? So if you
everyone knows that you can't murder someone, right? It's a law. All of the legal system is based on Torah. Judeo-Christian values came out of the Torah, right? So all of the current legal system, basics, don't steal, don't lie, don't murder, you learn it in school, in public non-Jewish school, right? Kids know from a very young age there's certain things that are right and wrong. Mummy and daddy, no matter what level of morality, still try and teach their kids whatever they know. So you're only ever judged according to what you actually know, and God knows what you really know, right? And you're judged according to your place and where you're truly at, which is wonderful, because this eradicates jealousy. You do not have to feel jealous of anyone else or feel terrible about yourself in comparison to someone else, because you're never judged according to their situation. You're only ever judged spiritually according to your situation. It's a very, very fair system. When I was a first psychologist out of university, I was working with homeless kids, street kids who lived on the streets, in and out of jail. They were addicted to heroin, obviously homes of abuse. It was a terrible situation. It was better for them in jail than out of jail, right? Because it was safer for them. They had meals, they had a bed. And they would often obviously rob people and assault them for money for drugs. That's what they would do. So when I started working with them, I was an addiction specialist at the time, and I started working with them, in their therapy programs. We discussed certain morality, basic morality. They know, but they didn't care because no one cared about them, right? So I would talk to them and I'd say, listen, even if you have to rob, it's better you don't assault. Because it's easier to rob someone, you assault them because they're out, and so then you can just take their, right? So when these kids went to rob someone and they paused and they held back and they didn't assault someone, they just took the money, they got spiritual merit. They got spiritual merit for robbing someone and not assaulting them. For them, that was a test. For us, we're like horrified, like we wouldn't even think of this. You hear? But according to their free will range, that's where they come from based on what they were role modeled, what they were shown, and they're trying to do something better than what they did. And so we're only ever judged according, like we wouldn't even be in moral conflict about any of that. That wouldn't even be a trigger for us, right? So too, I was with a Rebbitzin once, a big Rebbitzin, she's like a modern day matriarch. And she was just telling a story like in passing, and she revealed the other extreme, the other side, where her moral conflict was so refined, I didn't even relate to it. And she said, it was right before Passover, like now. And the right spiritual focus right now is to take care of your house and make sure it's ready for Passover, which is not so fun. It involves cleaning and whatever. Like, it's not so fun. It's housework, right? To set up the house for Passover, it's not so fun. And what she really loved to do was to go down and pray in Israel at Rachel's tomb, like the grave of Rachel, one of the matriarchs. So she used to go down at sunrise every Friday. She still does, I think. And she goes and prays there. And she was torn because she thought it was her like negative voice that was pulling her off her focus, off her correct focus, by going to pray at Rachel's tomb on Friday. So she called a friend or a mentor and said, what do you think is the right thing for me to do here? I'm in a bit of conflict. Should I go down and pray, or should I get my house ready for Passover? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know about you, but my negative voice is not telling me to go and pray at Rachel's tomb. Like, my negative voice is not saying, I think you should. That was her like seductive bad voice. Go and pray at Rachel's tomb. Like, on any given day, that would be my highest voice, good voice, right? So but that was her level of moral conflict, because she was so refined that was her struggle. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this reveals where she's at, So anyway, okay, I'm conscious of time and I want to get to a meditation. So we have this free will range. We have moral conflict. According to that moral conflict, we're in a test, and that's our opportunity to find that potential inside of ourselves and choose the right thing, even though it's very hard. And according to the challenge, the Torah says, is the reward. So to the level that it's difficult for us, to that level we get rewarded spiritually, and we build ourselves spiritually. So something that someone else finds very easy, we can say, oh, they just find that so easy, and for me it's so hard, and we can feel bad about ourselves. But the Torah says, no, the opposite. Everything's actually opposite. To the degree that you find something hard and you exert some effort to do it, even if you failed but you tried, you get enormous spiritual merit for that, right? So again, the whole system is not how we would think it is when it comes to challenges, when it comes to what really constitutes a breakthrough versus a breakdown, yeah? And here's the clincher. We can go into a little bit more spiritual zone, yeah, and a bit more of a spiritual zone. If you unpack many tests, and look at what is the core quality that God wants us to develop, it's a sense of trust, a sense of, we call it bitachon or emunah, right? Bitachon or emunah, to trust that there's something higher going on and that we're in the darkness, and we trust that God knows what he's talking about and it's good. When we talk about expect the good, right? So bitachon, when we're talking about, let's say someone's got a health diagnosis that's not great, we have to trust them in the process. If a married couple wants to have kids and they can't, they have to trust in the process. They don't know why, but they don't know what's going to happen. They're in the dark. They're not knowing. When someone's single, they're not married yet, they have to trust in the process, right? There's a bigger process going on. Or the other side is fear, right? They can choose between fear or trust. There are two choices. Do I turn towards God, or I run away from God? Do I let my fear overwhelm me, or do I let go and trust that I'm in a process? But I still, as Melissa, I think it was Melissa said, we still do our full effort with given what we know. You don't give up, you still try, but I trust that the outcome's up to God and it's for my good somehow, this process, right? And so the question is why? Why is trust such an important quality? And why are we constantly tested with this in every situation that we're in, when we're in the unknown? Whenever you are in a situation where you're in the unknown and you don't know the outcome, you are being tested in this area, an area of trust, of building a relationship with God and trusting God. So the question is, like, how does it work, and what are the mechanics of trust? So trust creates a vessel for blessing. This is getting very like lofty and spiritual, but I want to explain how it works, right? It moves us into the supernatural, where we become partners with God. Every Jew has the potential to live in the supernatural, or to choose not to live in just the natural world only, right? We can have one foot in. It says Jews are meant to be in the world, but not of the world, not defined by the world. We see that the first essence, hint of that is where God took Abraham outside and showed him the mazalot, the astrology, the stars, like the stars and the constellations. And it says that the midrash that says that they took Abraham above the stars and looked down on the stars, and God said, look, there is something to this. Sorry guys who just poo-poo star signs all the time, there really is something to star signs. Like, there is a certain, I know all the guys are laughing, right? Like there's something to this pattern and this set of coordinates of like patterns and personality traits and all of this, but you're not bound by it. God says you're not bound by it. Jews specifically are not bound by mazal, by this constellation. You're above it. So you're not defined by the world. You're in the world, but you're not of the world. So what does that mean? That means I have to create, and how do I pop out of the natural? It means I have to create a relationship with God. And when I have that relationship, it pulls me out of the natural world. I don't stay bound, and I don't stay subject to just the causes of nature only. I have opportunities in my life for direct divine providence. We call it hashgacha pratis in Hebrew, where God is really directly involved with my life in a revealing way, right? God's involved in every Jew's life, but to the level that you put your trust in God and that you want God in your life and you acknowledge it, to that degree, he will come down and actually reveal himself in your life, and then even potentially change nature for you. The higher righteous, like people, holy people, rabbis, tzaddikim, we see much more revealed hashgacha pratis, much more revealed divine providence, because they're so close to God. So but the one caveat to that, as opposed to, okay, you can say that's really nice because they're righteous, they're big, holy people. But the one exemption, right? Have anyone seen The Matrix? With the glitch in the Matrix, right? The glitch in the Matrix is trust. It says that trust will get you a direct line above nature. God can change anything for you to the degree that you trust him. So it doesn't matter if you merit it. It doesn't matter if you're righteous. It doesn't matter anything. It is totally based on the level that you rely on God. Why? Because when I rely on God, he wants to be there for us. He wants to come through. I don't know if you've ever seen this, even with kids. If you say, I trust you, you'll do it. All of a sudden they want to do it. They grow into your trust in them. Yes. Or if you've ever had someone believe in you, I know I have, and I know I wanted to come through. I didn't want to disappoint them. I wanted to be there for them. It's a natural part of connection. So it says to the degree that we actually rely in God, to that degree, he'll be there for us. Right. I want to share a crazy story. This is a crazy story that happened to me when I wasn't into Judaism, and I didn't even know if there was a God. I knew there was something probably higher, but I didn't know anything else about that, right? I knew that I believed in a higher power, and that was about it. I was in my 20s, and I was working with a therapist who I was dating at the time, and we were working with these street kids and these homeless kids, and we were working with them in wilderness therapy model, and it was going really well. And we actually were offered to present our model at a conference. So I was really excited. So I was in my 20s, and this is like a big deal for my career. And we had a deadline to get everything in by, otherwise we wouldn't be able to present. So the guy I was dating, who was my co-therapist, I said, okay, you do this part, I do this part, and we'll get it in by the deadline, which was 12 p.m. the next day, and then we'll be fine. The next day comes, and I can't get hold of him. And I'm calling and calling and calling him. And my gut feeling was like, I felt like he was looking at my phone, but ignoring me. Have you ever had that feeling? And I had no reason to feel that way. There's no reason that I thought he would be doing it. But I just felt like he kept looking at my phone. I kept calling and calling because I couldn't get hold of him. I was very, very nervous. And at some point I realized I called him 11 times. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Like, this is obsessive. because I was so anxious. I was getting really anxious. We're going to miss the deadline. He wasn't doing what he was meant to do. He wasn't in touch with me. He was ignoring me. And there was a lot riding on it. And I was in a knot. I was fearful. I was anxious. And I remember at some point thinking, this is just ridiculous. I can't be calling someone 11 times. I can't go down this path anymore. And I remember I said aloud, which I never did ever before. I said aloud, because I thought he was up to something. I thought this guy was up to something. I didn't know what. And I said to God, now I know it's God, but I said to this higher power that I didn't know if it existed. I said aloud, this is ridiculous. If there's something you want me to know, you'll let me know. But I can't worry about this anymore like this. And I remember this feeling of like handing over this anxiety and just saying, I've got to let go. I can't do this anymore, right? I wish I could do this now about everything. I can't. But like, I just, for some reason, and the situation, it pushed me so far that I just like kind of gave it up. And I just said like, I let go. I'm just letting it go. I can't do this anymore. And I literally handed it over to God. In looking back, that's what I did, right? I didn't know I was doing that. I gave it over to God. Within 2 minutes, my phone rang and it was the guy. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I answered the phone. Hello. He's not there. And I'm like, what? He's definitely calling me. And I realized my phone that minute had called his phone had called my phone by accident in his pocket. And I can hear where he is. And he's in a bar and he's gambling. And I found out he had a gambling addiction that I didn't know about in the moment that I gave over the problem to God, in the moment. And I remember the simultaneous feeling of being absolutely horrified listening to what I heard him going, come on, come on, come on, bump, ba-da-ba-dum, bump, with the machines in the background and all the sounds and whatever. And I remember this horror of listening to him doing this in the middle of this deadline that we have. And at the same time, feeling absolutely ecstatic that I knew this was a divine response. This was such a clear, direct, divine response that I literally said the words, if there's something you want me to know, you'll let me know. And I put it on God's shoulders, so to speak, and I let go of it. And I relied on God. And at the moment I did that internally and made that internal shift, I popped out of the natural realm into the supernatural, where God could come down and reveal something within natural causes. Like, it was still within a natural, it wasn't like the plagues or anything, right? But it was still within a natural, but it was so direct. It was such a divine response. I was so ecstatic because now I had a new best friend, like the CEO, you know, like I was like best friends with the CEO, and like he's helping me out, and I got this connection, and like that was it. That was the beginning of my spiritual openness to explore Judaism in a serious way. Right? Was when and this can happen to any single one of you. Any single one of you, if you want to do this, if you want to rely on God, if you want to talk to God and build a relationship, he'll come down. Why? Because if I'm not doing that, so this is the question, why does this work so well? Why is this the glitch in the matrix? Like, why? Why is this the glitch? Because what happens when a child nurses from a mother? When a baby, nurses from its mother, it sucks the milk, correct? Sucks the milk, and the milk drops into the mother to the level that the child needs it. And not only that, but the type of milk and what it is, and the vitamins and the taste and the how it affects the metabolism, everything is tailor-made in the milk according to the baby's needs. It's unbelievable. After the baby nurses, the baby doesn't worry like where's the next meal coming from. The baby's just so content, just so content in the security with the mother, right? So it says, it's interesting in Torah that the translation of faith is emunah. The word emunah, right, is faith in God. And in the commentaries, emunah is often compared to a nursing mother who nurses her suckling, right? And it's called an omein. Omein is from the same root, emunah. That's interesting. So what's the connection? So it says that if we don't trust in God, we are left to the devices of whatever we put our trust in. Right? If I'm not going to trust in God, I've got it. Thank you very much. I trust my job. I trust my boss. I trust the economy. I trust doctors. Then God leaves you in the hands of whatever you put your trust in. So you say, like, that sounds really severe. That's not very nice. Like, what a severe punishment. Why would God do that? So it turns out that it's not a punishment. It's how the system works. How does the milk come down into the mother? The milk comes down according to the baby's sucking. If the baby stops sucking the milk, the mother's milk completely dries up. Yes, you know about this mechanism. I mean, this idea that if the baby, and you see mothers go, oh, I don't have enough milk, right? The baby's not sucking enough, the milk doesn't come down. The baby's sucking, the milk comes down according to the baby's needs. So it turns out it's not a punishment that God leaves us into the hands of whatever we trust in. The system doesn't work, because you have to go somewhere else. It turns out that our sucking is our reliance on God. To the degree that I trust God and rely on him, it's like pulling down the relationship. If I'm not in it, if I'm not even in the relationship and I don't have any trust or reliance, so it's like there's no need for nurturance or sustenance from that higher level. God lets you operate in the world that you want to operate in. We have free choice. So it turns out that the actual system doesn't work, because it's the nursing itself is like the bringing down of the blessing, right? The sucking, the reliance, the trust, the relationship is what brings it down. And it's up to me how much I want to draw down. It's a very, very deep idea, very deep Kabbalistic type of idea. So we call it shefa. Shefa is like bracha. Okay, so is this making sense? Have you ever heard this? This analogy is unbelievable. Like, it just makes so much sense when you see it in the physical, right? With the mother and the child, and that's really, and you can't fake this. You can't fake trust. It's the only thing you can't fake. Everything else you can fake it till you make it, right? You can do a little bit and then you get there. Trust is a choice. Trust is a choice, and you have to choose to trust. And if you don't know enough about God to choose to trust him, so that's also okay. So then the answer is to learn more about God and about that relationship and what God reveals to us in the Torah about that relationship, so that we can start developing a relationship. So how do we build trust? I call it the PEAT method, just made it up, PEAT, right? Perspective, like we talked about, having perspective about the bigger picture, that I'm any given moment I'm in the bigger picture. Expect the good, like we talked about. Don't expect what I think I should expect, the details, but expect the good in general, that this process is leading me somewhere to good. Acceptance, right, is the A. Accepting what is right now. If I can't change what's happening, then I need to accept it, which is the key that Melissa brought up. It's not about not trying and not putting in effort, but it's about accepting reality as it is, that if I can't change it, then I need to accept it. Like now, we can't change quarantine and isolation, so we need to accept it. And number T is talk to God. And this can feel weird because, did you get that, Hillary? Did you get the talk? No, I could see that. You guys were trying to guess in advance.
Neither of us got it.
I love that you were trying to get it. What did you think T was?
I thought it was trust, and he thought it was try. But then we both thought perhaps it was triumph.
Triumph, right. Okay, but the whole thing is about the way to trust. But that was good. I love that you're guessing in advance. That's awesome. So talk to God means you can't really build trust with anyone unless you have a relationship. And the way to have a relationship, the Torah says, is to talk, because that's what humans need to build connection, right? So this means that you need to talk loud enough in a whisper that you actually hear it. Yeah? So not meaning, we would say, well, if there's a God, surely he knows what's in my head. Yes, he knows what's in your head, but we won't feel connected. The halacha says we won't feel connected. The Jewish law says we need to talk aloud. So loud enough in a whisper, you will feel silly for about a week. Let yourself feel stupid. You'll feel stupid. You'll feel silly. You'll feel stupid. What am I doing? It's just weird. Okay, fine. Do it for about a week. After a week, you won't feel stupid anymore. It'll feel like the most natural thing in the world. And that talking is the way that you build your connection. And then you'll see God respond to you in your life, right? But at the end of the day, once we've worked on these 4 aspects, it's really a choice. It's a choice to trust. It's a choice. I can choose to trust because I know I'm not in control. I know I don't know everything at all. And I don't know how to, we know so very little about our lives. You know, one of my favorite rabbis said, you know, there's no such thing as an inferiority complex. You are inferior, right? There's no such thing as inferiority complex. We are inferior. We only know certain limited amounts in our life. Like, it's really pathetic how much we actually know versus what we think we know. And we have no control over many, many outcomes, right? And all we can do is put in our effort. And we should put in maximum effort, and we should understand things as best we can, 100%. We're meant to fully engage the world. We're meant to understand the world. We're meant to be intelligent about our decisions. But there's a much bigger picture that we don't really know what's going on. So what I wanted to do was a little short meditation. Is that Rabbi, is that still good? Yes? Because I'll tell you why. Because meditation is not airy-fairy. It's about going down into your internal world. And it's much easier to do it when someone else guides you down. And it is literally practicing perspective, expecting the good, acceptance, and talking to God, right? You don't have to do all these in there. Like, this is a spiritual Jewish meditation. It's not the same thing as Calm or Headspace apps, which are fantastic, but that's more for relaxation, sleep, and stress management. Right, that's more for the psychological, emotional realm. What we're going to do now will have those benefits also, but it's more connecting spiritually as well, which those apps don't like to go near because people have different opinions. So what I'm going to do, if you want to try, great. If you don't, see you later. You can check out. Also, that's fine. If you want to have a nap, please do. But if you want to try, I've got all free podcasts on an iTunes podcast called Souled, SOULED, which is the program I ran in New York and LA and now Brooklyn. So you can go there and practice, because it's much easier to do meditation when someone's guiding you into it rather than just do silent by yourself. And all the classes are there if you've enjoyed. SOULED. Sorry, Sarah. SOULED. Yeah. And so if you want to do this, it can be easier if you want to turn your camera off and you don't feel like the camera's on you because you could be self-conscious. It's sometimes people like that. No one can hear you, obviously. So I'm just going to do it. And if you feel free to do it, if you're not going to do it, it's probably better to turn your camera off so you don't distract other people, right? And they don't feel like you're looking at them either. Okay, so get comfortable. And it's probably better actually to turn your camera off if you want. I'm going to keep my camera on and you can see me so that you feel you have some privacy, but we're still together. And there's a power in meditating together, by the way. And even though we're on Zoom, it doesn't matter because we all have the intent to do it together. So just get comfortable. There's no right or wrong with meditation. The whole point of meditation is literally to practice being with whatever is happening, literally to practice being with whatever is happening, as opposed to changing it, expecting something different, right? Holding on to some sort of result, judging yourself as like, that was good, that was bad. Oh, I'm not meditating. Oh, I'm distracted. Like, get rid of the analysis. Just let it go, just let it go. And just the idea is just to be curious and accepting of whatever is happening. If you fall asleep, it means all it means is you need a nap, right? So there's no right or wrong with meditation. It's the practice of process, and it's the practice of being with whatever is happening. And it's a way to develop your inner world in such a powerful experiential way that you cannot do often with your eyes open and consciously just chatting, right? So, okay, so get comfortable. Again, there's no right or wrong in the way you're sitting. Just get comfortable and have some privacy and space and quiet just for the next few minutes. Just as you close your eyes, again, close your eyes if you feel comfortable. It's because that immediately orients you to your inner world. And just notice like how you feel when you close your eyes. Notice what you notice. Notice if there's parts of you that you suddenly realize are a bit tense, and just let them be. You don't have to do anything to them. Just let them be there. And as you sit here, just take a deep breath into your tummy. As you breathe in, your stomach should go out. And as you breathe out, your stomach should come in. So you can take a full breath. Just taking a deep breath in. And just allowing yourself to be here for the next little while with nothing much to do. There's nowhere to go. Nothing you have to work out. No one you have to see. And just allowing yourself to arrive and be in this moment. And as you sit here, just being in this moment, just gently take your awareness to the top of your head and just notice if there's any tension in your scalp, your head, behind your eyes, cheekbones, jaw, and just giving permission for any tension in your head, behind your face, just to let go easily and effortlessly. Just giving permission just to release any tension moving down your neck, into your shoulders, all the way down your arms, all the way down into your fingertips. Just letting go of any tension easily and effortlessly. Moving down, now your chest, sternum, all the way down into your diaphragm, stomach. Especially organs like your stomach can hold a lot of stress and tension. So just giving permission for as much as it wants to let go, can let go easily, effortlessly, all the way down into your hips. And just moving down now, down your spine as well, shoulder blades, lower back, especially your kidneys. Kidneys hold a lot of emotion, the Zohar says. Just allowing any organs to release and let go of any tension to your hips, to your legs, into your knees and calves, all the way down into your feet, to the tips of your toes. And as you sit here right now, just allowing yourself to drift deeper and deeper and deeper into a place that's very, very still, calm, centered. Easily and effortlessly, just allowing yourself to be however you are. All is good and all is okay. And it's in this moment that we realize that everything is okay right here and right now in this moment. And as we're sitting here drifting deeper and deeper and deeper into a place that is really connected, full of calm, peacefulness, becomes easy to realize and remember and recall that there's a higher power, a divine source, God, right here, right now, with you personally in this room, in your room, in your house. And there is a divine source watching and involved in your personal life, every detail, loving you unconditionally. This divine source, higher power, is with you personally right here, right now, in this moment. And just notice what you notice when you notice that. And it's in this place that it becomes easier to acknowledge that in any given moment, I'm in the middle of a series of moments. And I'm standing as a result of the ones that came before me. And I'm in the middle of a process with the ones that lie before me, ahead of me. And that it's okay to not know the answers or the conclusions, to be in the not knowing. And just allowing ourselves to accept that. Right now, I don't know how this situation is going to end. And that's okay. Just by being in this moment, I can accept that. And one thing I know, because of this higher power who's in my life every day, involved in running my world, loves me very, very much, unconditionally loving, that we can expect that somehow it will be good and that it's leading to a good conclusion for both ourselves personally and for all of humanity. And as I zoom out and realize that I'm in the middle of a story, get some perspective. There's a process going on. I'm part of it. But I don't have to carry it. And I can also see that we can expect the good because the one that's running the show loves all of us very much. And through doing that, it becomes easier to accept the current situation. That right now it's okay, even if things aren't as I would choose. Because there's a bigger picture. And because it will be good, I can accept the reality and be at peace with it. And because I have this perspective of the bigger picture and know that it will be good and can accept the reality, it makes sense that I might want to say a few words to the source of everything, to the CEO of the world, who loves each one of us very, very much, loves you personally very much, and is right here, right now with you listening. And so it makes sense to be able to go to this source of everything to ask for help, to request assistance, to ask for spiritual clarity, personal growth, success, health, to give thanks for what we do have, and even praise for the awesomeness that is this higher power's reality. So what we'll do now is just spend a couple of moments, just a minute or two, and just take those moments to speak whatever is on your heart and your mind in the way that you would normally just to someone who you feel very close to. Again, there's no right or wrong, just letting things speak aloud, loud enough in a whisper, just so that you hear it. I'm just going to be silent so we can practice talking to God for a couple of minutes, and I'll bring you out in a few moments. Just finishing up the last couple of things. Again, just noticing with curiosity how that was for you. No right or wrong, no good or bad, just how was it? And knowing you can come back here anytime and bringing this calm and peacefulness with you back into the room in your own time. 5, feeling the feet on the ground or under the chair. 4, listening to the sounds around you. 3, taking a deep breath. 2, hearing my voice. 1, in your own time, when you're ready, gently opening your eyes and coming back into the room. So if you want to share how that was for you, I'd be happy to hear. If it was surprising, if it was frustrating, distracting, difficult, you can turn your cameras back on if you feel like it's, but sometimes, usually people feel very chill. Is that different to what you've done in the past? Is it, you fell asleep, had a great nap?
I think Armando's out.
What, sorry?
Nothing. The guy next to Kara.
Yeah, we lost Armando.
Oh, we lost him. Oh, okay, it's time for a nap. There's no
No,
problem.
but I woke up when you call us back.
What was that like for you guys?
It was good. I like it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to work up to the talking thing. I keep a lot of the thoughts in my mind.
That's going to be the breakthrough. You don't even have to work up to it. You have to just make a choice to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to just naturally feel like, oh, I suddenly want to talk aloud to God. Like it's just going to always have that awkward feeling until you do it. And you can say, you can just be real. You know, my first prayer was something like, I feel really stupid right now. That was my first prayer. And I said, but I feel like the worst thing I could be doing is talking to a wall, because I was at the Western Wall. And I said, and everyone else is anyway. So, you know, like I just said, okay, I said, if you're there, if you exist, show me in a way that I relate to. That was a real prayer, where you're really at. So you don't have to pretend to be something you're not, right? You don't have to try and like prayer mode. Like you don't have to go into some other mode. You can just be you and say like, I'm trying to work up to talking to you. This feels really awkward. Like I'm just going to try because I really do want to have a relationship if you exist, right? That would be a real prayer, you know, if that's where you're at. Anyone else? Danielle? Oh, you don't have to answer. You felt like you were buzzing like somehow. to say,
Oh
I
no,
don't know,
I was
more like,
actually think so I listened to some of your podcasts, and I had listened to the one about like talking aloud to God a few years ago,
oh
and
wow,
it really stuck with me, and it really made a difference, I feel like, in how I prayed. So yeah,
wow,
thank you for that.
wow, amazing. That's so special. Thank you for giving me that feedback.
No,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, it's
really
not me,
helpful.
it's really the Jewish law. The Jewish law suggests that because they know that that's how we operate as humans and that we need it. And it really, really makes the difference. Like Danielle's like the ad for prayer, you know, it really, really makes a difference. Really, really does, right? How was that meditation for you? Was that hard, easy, connective, disconnective?
I never feel like I can really like focus or get to like that calm, comfortable place. So I don't know, getting there.
Getting it. Yeah, it's practice. It's literally, that's why it's called a practice. Yeah. By the way, the reason why the meditation piece is important is because you can only really have a connection with someone to the degree that you're actually quiet with yourself. You know, you've had relationships with other people where they're not really home and they're checking their phone all the time and they're all distracted, and you don't really feel like you connect because they're not home in themselves. So the meditation is a way of quietening yourself down so that you're present and connected with yourself. And then when you talk to God from that place, it's a much more powerful connection because you're quiet, right? So the meditation teaches you how to quieten yourself down, so that you can have more quality of connection, just like with anyone. If you did this before you met a friend, you'd also have a better coffee or lunch with a friend. I mean, remember those days when we actually met for lunch? Yeah. Okay.
Do you mind if I add something to based on your comment?
Yeah, please.
I thought what you just said really resonated with me, and I think with a lot of us that this time is particularly challenging. I think for people who are so accustomed to going out and doing things and distracting themselves, and they realize that the minute that they're alone and that they don't have those distractions, they're forced to confront their true feelings, their true inner dialogue. And I
Yes.
think it terrifies people, but I think it's a great like exercise, and regardless of whether you're really extroverted or introverted or whatnot, I think it's hard for people to truly like be present. So yeah,
Very hard, very, very rare. But
Yeah.
alcohol sales boomed since quarantine because people are just getting drunk at home, you know. So people really don't want to sit with themselves. I feel terrible for them because that's just a constant battle to escape themselves, you know. They don't realize that that's the most happy place to be. If you can just allow whatever thoughts and feelings to come up and not resist it, you know, what you resist persists. So if you resist things, it's just going to come up more because that's just the nature of who we are. Nothing wrong with drinking though, by the way. I love a glass of wine, but I'm just saying, like, to escape constantly. We say l'chaim, right? In Judaism, we say l'chaim, to life. We don't say from life. I'm escaping from life. Mechaim. Mem at the beginning would be from life. We drink to life. We drink so we can connect deeper. We don't drink till we escape, right? It enhances life.
It just struck me now how when we pray and the main focus, the main climax of the prayer is the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, in a way that's set up to be like what you just did, because it's you're not sitting down in a comfortable position. You're standing up to be like an angel, but you're also quiet. You have a choice. The rabbis tell us either to pray from the Siddur, from the book, or have your eyes closed if you know it by heart and actually talk to God. But you're definitely not supposed to be, you know, thinking of other foreign thoughts, looking all over the place. And so it's pretty cool how the experience that we just went through actually emulates to what prayer.
Right. This is the training wheels.
Yeah.
These were the training wheels. And then the Shemona Esrei is actually a Kabbalistic formula that it says that unlocks the most intimacy you could ever experience with God in this world. And it's like the Shekhinah, the feminine presence of God, drops down in front of you when you step 3 steps back away from your day-to-day life and 3 steps forward into that intimate connection, and you whisper, and it feels like God's really, really, really close to you. My prayers are different outside of the Shemona Esrei to inside the Shemona Esrei, and that takes you through a flow of different blessings that you're meant to connect with in your heart about things that a human being should be connected to. And what I just thought was interesting, again, we don't know if it really means this, but covered 19 is the number of blessings in that specific prayer.
Wow.
And covered means honor. So a covered is like honoring God. And how do we do that? Through these 19 blessings in the silent prayer that brings you the closest to God ever possible, which is just unbelievable. And the idea that corona means crown, right? And the crown, we talk about crowning Hashem king all the time. That's what it means to let go, let God, right? To let God into your life means to crown Hashem. You're my boss. You're in charge of my life. I'm not in charge. And I want to be connected to you so that I'm not just running my own show, because I don't want to be left to my own devices. I want to have trust in you. I want you to be involved and bring down that, divine hashgacha pratis, providence, and be in my life in a revealed way. So I just feel like there's a lot of hints here with Corona and with COVID, and COVID is Gematria 26, which is also the number of Hashem's name. There's all sorts of levels here that you don't even have to look far. They're direct hints, direct. It's not like I'm jumping, making huge leaps. They're very, very direct, but we don't know. We don't know. We can't make big decisions based on those things. It's just interesting to notice that this is part of, and Korana or Karana in Hebrew, Karana means to call out to God. Call out. Kara is call and na is please. Please call out to me. Please talk to me. Hashem's like, hello, I'm going to take away. You've got a global timeout. You're going to go home. You're going to be isolated. You're going to go inside. Please say the 19 brachas that bring me the closest to you. Please give me covered because it's good for you. He doesn't need the covered. The covered means I honor God, that I want him to be, him to be running my life, not me. I don't want to be full of myself. I want to create space for God to come in and to be able to call out, and to crown God and let go, let God. That's really how I'm relating to this whole situation. And please God, we all have a meaningful Passover and we break free from our own inner limitations, which is what Passover is about, and that we come close and we feel our true essence and our true potential in very, very practical, tangible ways. Please God.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Jackie. We really enjoyed that. How can our students reach out to you if they would like to reach you? Email?
Best way, email. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Facebook, Jackie Glaser, or I'll just put it in the chat. Do you want me to put it in the chat? Everyone, Jackie at soldnyc.com is probably the easiest email.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, Facebook, chat, on everything. I have an Instagram, Get Sold, also.
Okay. Okay, great. That was a really fun and enjoyable and an incredible experience. Thank you so much. Everybody should have a Chag Kasher V'Sameach. I don't know. Does anybody have any questions? I don't know if you're running out. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh yeah, questions, comments, protests.
Okay. Okay, great. All right.